been a while since a rap beef has legit left me with a loss for words. And I was gonna make a video all weekend, but things developed too quickly. Next thing you know, Kendrick drops. Next thing you know, Drake drops, and then Kendrick drops 30 minutes later, and then Kendrick. So they just kept going, and it never stopped. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make a video until I feel like the battle can be safely concluded and I can safely pick a winner and I can digest the bars, because things were happening too fast. You know, it was crazy. YouTube couldn't keep up with it. Editors couldn't keep up with it. It was really hard to get information on the latest stuff. You just had to wait. And I swear, dude, we all waited this weekend for drops, and we got them, and then instantly videos would pop up, but then those would be outdated and people did not know what to do, and it was absolute chaos. Nothing in this beef aged well. I mean, my first video about this beef is called "Is This Hip Hop's Most Underwhelming Beef?" because that's how it started. But oh boy, what a difference a month makes. This has gone from the most underwhelming beef to quite simply the most theatrical, spectacular, vicious, and probably the rap battle to end all rap battles. But we'll see, because the implications are so huge. These are two superstars in the rap game going at each other. These are two very different styles. But wow, I mean, where do I begin? Well, let's start from where I left off. Kendrick had struck back with Euphoria, and I did a video called Kendrick Lamar Strikes Back, where I break down that song. And at that point, I would say out of 100 people, at that point, 65% felt like Kendrick Lamar had won. And I thought that's about as far as it was gonna go. Maybe Drake would drop a diss back, and then maybe Kendrick go again. And that's what I was expecting, but that didn't happen. After Euphoria, Kendrick Lamar went and dropped 616 in Los Angeles. And I'm like, wow, and Drake hasn't even responded yet. 616 in Los Angeles drops, and in that song, he's telling Drake, you know, there's some mole in your camp, and, you know, like, if you look around, how many people around you can you really trust? Like, just kind of really getting into his head. And this is what they call, like, a teaser diss track. This is a diss track basically that you create to try to coax your opponent into a response. It almost looks like you're making fun of them. You're typically not trying super hard when you do these. Like, Tailor-Made Freestyle was supposed to be a tease to get Kendrick to come out. And so that's a different type of diss track. And 616 in LA was wonderful. It's a great track. He just kind of cuts at him right to the point. Like, how many people can you really trust that are close to you? And I didn't know the whole time there were some things going on in the background. People were waiting for Drake to respond, and finally Drake responds with Family Matters. And man, that song was actually pretty good, and it would have been possibly maybe even close to a knockout shot had it landed the way it was supposed to, but it didn't, because just 30 minutes after that song, Kendrick Lamar releases a song called Meet the Grams. This song, Meet the Grams, is the hardest I've ever heard anybody get dissed. And I'm still kind of in my head trying to figure out where I'm gonna place it, but I don't know if I've ever heard a harder diss track. Look, man, I've been a rap fan for 30 years. I've seen some battles. I seen Nas and Jay-Z. I saw Cannabis take on LL Cool J. I saw West Side Connection versus Cypress Hill. I saw Eminem in his various battles with Ja Rule and Benzino, 50 Cent and Game, Tupac and Biggie, like Common and Ice Cube, shit like that. I've seen lots of battles, lots of rap beefs. I don't think I've ever seen one quite this entertaining. Like, this was crazy. And to release a song like Meet the Grams, a song where Kendrick Lamar is basically writing a letter to all of Drake's family, and having a heart-to-heart about Drake's antics and his wild party life and alleged sex acts. This was done with a beat that just made everything really creepy and was very unsettling. And I remember listening to it with my wife, and both of us just kind of like our mouth hung open, like, whoa. And I'm just sitting there like things just got amped up. This by far was a slam dunk and a rain on Drake's parade. Just as he released Family Matters, just as his stands were claiming victory, they got that air taken out of their freaking boat sails right away. They got deflated instantly because Meet the Gramps is undeniable. This is a disrespectful track. It is very clever, it's witty, and it's from the angle of concern, which allows Kendrick to insult Drake by talking to his family, including his kids, saying sorry for your dad being such a deadbeat. Ooh, man, that's gotta hit. Alright, like that's something you go to bed at night and you look up at the roof and you think to yourself, man, what have I got myself into? What should have been Drake's knockout shot with Family Matters was completely snuffed out. This was an incredibly well-placed move by Kendrick Lamar, and you start to realize that Kendrick Lamar has game on Drake. Now this is crazy. Drake normally wins his battles by having really good bars, which I suspect he gets from battle rappers that he hangs out with, and has really good producers. I mean, Drake will make a diss song about you and it plays in the club, and even if Drake didn't win the battle outright, people are gonna think he did because it's his song that's playing in the club. And so this is how Drake would beat you. He would smother you. He was so popular, he would use his wealth and his connections to get you. And this song just felt like a nail in the coffin. And in my mind, and in most of the public's eyes, out of the 100 people, now 80 people are saying that Kendrick Lamar won. And this was the knockout blow. But it wasn't over. Oh, not by a long shot. Kung Fu Kenny still had a few left in the chamber, and he put out a song called Not Like Us, which you could call a club song that is very simple, very catchy, and this is another teaser track. It actually sounds like he's dancing on someone's grave. That's what the song reminds me of, and he is going in bar after bar, the most memorable being the you trying to strike a chord, but it's probably A minor. Oh man, just doubling down on the claims and accusations. Look, let me tell you something. Being accused of doing something like that, especially when you're a public figure, you got some PR work to do, my guy. You got to go rent a snowplow because you got a lot of stuff to clear. Now, these things came out and these allegations came out. Family Matters has Drake alleging that Kendrick Lamar's child belongs to his collaborator, Dave Free. I don't know if that's real or not, but that's the claim made. Also, Drake claims that Kendrick Lamar beats his wife. Again, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff, you know. I'm assuming he got a lot of it from the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers album. But again, these are just claims, so I don't know. Kendrick Lamar alleges to reveal a daughter that Drake had been hiding, which kind of just seemed fake. I don't know. These allegations that were made back and forth, whether you were a Drake or a Kendrick fan, just sounded like something's not adding up. Somebody is lying. So now, despite the fact that this beef has been riddled with tons of bars, look, I'm gonna say this, Drake came with a lot of good bars. Alright, I'm not gonna take that away from him. When he said, you rapping like you trying to free the slaves, like that was hilarious. Like, no, Drake has good bars. He's got good writers. Like, you know, and it was interesting that that didn't even matter anymore. That got taken out. A lot of Drake fans were relying on Drake's song to be playing in the clubs. Well, guess what? That's not going to be happening either. because Kendrick Lamar's song is the one that sounds like this is it. This is the song that people want to dance to. And that's so weird. I always thought it was weird. Like I said, but I gotta, take a deep breath, know that I'm dealing with casuals, people that like Drake. Drake brings in the casuals. You know what I'm saying? That's just who he is. He's that big of a star. But either way, this thing got ugly because you're involving family members and man. And me also, I gotta stop as an MC and admire the masterful timing and the bars and the delivery of Kendrick Lamar. As a battle rapper, he's still a storyteller, and it is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal testament to the man's skill. This is why we respect this guy. Let me tell you something. Drake is learning a lesson. I think everybody's learning a lesson. Is sometimes people think that if you think you're too big to fall, that's usually when you fall. All right, I've heard Drake fans saying, well, these allegations, we don't know if they're true. That's true. I don't know if they're true. His underage girl's allegations, I have no idea if that's true, but if it is, it could end his career. Oh no, Drake is too big to fall. At one point, R. Kelly was 3 times bigger than Drake. At one point, R. Kelly was producing songs on the radio. He was producing his own songs on the radio. He was producing albums. He was signing artists. He had power and people loved him and they loved his music. Super talented. And even when they found out about the sex tape or the P tape or whatever allegations with the underage girl, people were still weirded out, but they kind of shrugged it off. They're like, you know what, whatever, it's all good. But then when more and more allegations came out, it was over. R. Kelly was a giant in the game, and he's gone. So for those people thinking you're too big to fall, take a step back. I think a lot of this is backfiring on Drake for a few reasons. For one, Drake is learning that the more negative energy you put out there, doing things like screwing other people's girl or throwing money at your problems or soliciting for sex, or eventually it's gonna catch up to you, and eventually it could spell your downfall. So I want that to be the lesson of this battle. You are never gonna be, there is no such thing as too big to fall. In fact, if you start saying that to me just signals complacency. Now, as far as this battle goes, it was over by the time, in my eyes, it was over after Euphoria. But this got way out of hand. And it was entertaining, but there was something unsettling about watching 2 adults in their late to mid 30s tear each other up in front of the internet, in front of the world, while we all sat and watched. There is something a little bit gross about it, but at the same time, it's probably because I haven't seen something like this in a while. The last time I saw something like this, and it wasn't even this intense, was MGK versus Eminem. Like how that had the internet roaring. But there are lessons to be learned here. Now, I don't know what's going on, but if these allegations, I guess this battle just comes down to who was lying and who was telling the truth. Musically, I think Kendrick took it, but if it comes out that Kendrick was lying, this would hurt his credibility. But if it comes out that Drake was lying, this is going to hurt his credibility. I don't know how Drake comes back from it. I really don't. He's got too many enemies, and he just embarrassed himself in front of the world. He called out who many people consider the greatest critically acclaimed rapper in the West Coast and a legend. Kendrick Lamar is already an ordained legend. He doesn't have anything to prove at this point, but he sticks around because he loves making music. I got a lot of love and respect for Kendrick Lamar, and I've never been a big fan of Drake just because I felt like Drake represented everything that was wrong in the game. I feel like Drake bought himself into the game, and I feel like the media machine backed him up. And what's even more terrible for Drake is that he had every possible advantage he could have had going into this battle. He had battle rappers to write his bars. He had producers. He had people in the streets digging for information. He has an army of stans that are willing to claim that he won no matter what. He even apparently tried to get Kendrick's song taken off the radio so he can win, the streams and views war. He tried to cheat and go dirty like that. He had everything on his side. And he still got clapped. Wow. So with that, this concludes, I would say, a masterpiece of a battle, for sure. But Kendrick Lamar is walking away from this one. As it sits right now, Kendrick Lamar is the victor.